Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
You're trying to tell me the FBI is going to pay me to learn to surf?
It's either you or me out there on the board. You get my drift?
Angelo, this is for little rubber people who don't shave yet.
Come on. You're the quarterback, Jock. It's all balance, right? And coordination. How hard can it be?
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show, to the 8th of February show. It's unbelievable. I still can't believe we're already in February, and I also can't believe we're only a few days away from Deadpool.
With that Gung Shi Fat Choi. I thought I would actually get that in straight away, just
yes.
in case anybody from China is listening.
And
New Year.
Yeah, to anyone in China or Chinese listening, apologies. Happy New Year is what that should have said. I don't know if it did or not.
It does actually mean Gung Shi Fat Choi means Happy New Year.
Yeah, but whether or not you pronounced it correctly is what I mean.
I know, I made sure I did. So I've listened to a few. I actually knew how to pronounce that because I don't know how, but over the last few years I've been able to actually see that. But it is Gung Shi Fat Choi. Happy New Year, and it's the year of the monkey, which is my Chinese New Year symbol.
Okay, I have no idea what mine is.
I haven't a clue.
No.
All I care about is the fact that it's mine and it's the year of the monkey.
Although I was just trying to think this week, there aren't really any monkeys in what we've got coming up, although there is, well, kind of like a monkey in one of the films.
Yeah, I was going to call him the Abominable Snowman, but it's not the Abominable Snowman, it is Bigfoot in a way in Goosebumps.
Yeah.
And then we have a remake that probably should never have happened in Point Break, and then a 60s, 70s beloved TV series getting the movie treatment for the second time. The first time it was straight to TV, this time it's on the big screen in Dad's Army. And then Oscar contender movie Trumbo, the only Oscar contender movie in this week's lineup.
Yeah, although again a true story one, so we've got true stories again this week, at least one.
Yeah, because Goosebumps is based on a true story.
Yeah. No. Okay. What else have we got then on DVD and Blu-ray?
Yeah, and on Blu-ray and DVD, Matt Damon gets stranded on Mars in The Martian. Pan might be getting panned for a second time. And then we have very, very strange, weird movie, The Lobster. And to round things off, we're crossing over the channel to France. Unfortunately, not China. Would have been nice if we had a Chinese movie. But to France to see who Gemma Bovery is. Yes.
But before that, of course, as usual, we have some movie news. Starting off with a bit of casting news in something I'm sure that everyone listening, and yourself included, are excited about. 50 Shades Darker. Yeah. Actress Bella Heathcote has been added to the cast as Christian Grey's ex or former lover Layla. Dakota Johnson and Jamie Dornan are said to be returning for the movie, even though this has been disputed previously, as Anastasia Steele and Christian Grey. James Foley will be taking over directing duties though, and the movie will also has cast Luke Grimes, Eloise Mumford and Max Martini in the cast. The interesting thing that I think about this as well is that we now have confirmation Universal are planning to film 50 Shades Darker and 50 Shades Freed, the other two books in the series, back to back, with the first one being released in February 10th, 2017. So this time next year, it'll be coming out.
And I'm definitely not seeing it. That's you. You'll probably be dragged along to see it anyway. That cat is not eager to see it.
If response to the last film was any indication, possibly not.
Yes, but you've got your unlimited card, so you probably don't have any excuse not to.
Yeah, I do. It's just worth noting.
That's the excuse.
It's worth noting as well. Bella Heathcote. If you don't know who she is, don't recognise who she is, you will see her soon in the upcoming Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which I have seen.
I I know.
I'm not sure who she is in it because I can't think who I've not seen a picture or anything of her or looked up. But I mean, you know, she's got another film as well coming out before the end of the year. I can't remember what it was, but it's she's sort of on the rise. So they've cast someone who is yet to have sort of a lot of films, but now is going to be in these two and then that. So
yeah, I think I personally need to move closer to a world of cine kind of cinema just to take part in this unlimited card and being able to get to see all these films early, because it's getting really annoying now because my cinema sucks.
It's a little bit of a godsend, but it's also a bit annoying because then you make me go and see things I don't want to see.
Yeah, but at least it pays for in like 2 visits, whereas me, I must spend a good £40-50 a month just to go to the cinema. And if I can save like £30 just to get the cinema card, then I would love to do that, but that's not possible with my cinema because again, it sucks.
And there are previews of films that haven't actually been out yet. There are 3 films this week that I've seen that are not out for another. One is another week, another one is 2 weeks. I can't remember what the other one is.
Still sucks for me.
Yeah. Other pieces of news: MacGyver is getting a movie reboot, and possibly also talk of not only having a movie but also a TV series. Whether or not it's going to be the same thing or not, there's no idea because there's not been further details announced. But the movie is apparently going to be sorted out and done by Lionsgate.
Yeah, and they've got the producer from Furious 7 working on it. Fast and Furious 7. He's busy over here at it, so woot woot.
Elizabeth Banks is joining the Power Rangers movie.
Yay.
But not as you think. She
Yeah,
tweeted the other day, after 10,000 years I'm free, it's time to conquer Earth, time to play #Rita Repulsa, #Power Rangers movie.
Yeah, and did you see all the uproar and all the just people screaming, no, I can't believe you've cast Elizabeth Banks in it, when I'm thinking, actually, she's probably the best person to cast as Rita. It doesn't matter about a creator, colour or anything like that. If you look at her in something like Hunger Games, she's a chameleon. Give her a good costume or something like that, and she can embody that costume, and she's got that sort of like malevolent feel in a way. And I think she can play Rita brilliantly, so I think they've got the casting spot on.
All I know is if I have to see the 50 Shades of Grey movies, you have to see this.
The worst thing is, I can't believe I'm admitting this, but the film I saw most at the cinemas was the original Power Rangers movie.
Oh my god.
I saw it 5 times in the cinema, not because I wanted to, it's because I was dragged to every single time.
Yeah,
because
I'm sure that's your story.
Yeah, my mum wouldn't let my brother, who I go to the cinema on his own. So I had to be the one to go, and I saw Power Rangers 5 times in the space of 2 weeks.
Okay.
That was hell for me. So
my last piece of news that I have here is regarding director Katheryn Bigalow is going to be teaming with the writer of The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30, Mark Bowl, who's going to be writing a script based on a true crime amidst racially charged riots that happened in Detroit in 1967 that were dubbed the 12th Street Riots.
yeah, this is probably better suited for Katheryn Bigalow than what her rumoured film was going to be, which was the Tomb Raider reboot. So yeah, it's in her ballpark doing something like that.
I don't have a problem if she had done Tomb Raider, because it's the Tomb Raider film. The first one was okay. The second one, yeah, okay, it's pretty terrible by Jan de Bont, but it's a franchise that had a chance to actually be a really good because we don't have an Indiana Jones thing. We're potentially going to have it with the Uncharted film if that ever does get off the ground and finally get done, but at the moment still nothing's happening with that, so there would be nothing wrong with having a new adventurer franchise as long as it's a decent one.
Yeah. We'll see what she brings with her next film. And there is on top of the news that you've done, there's very little other news around. There's lots of TV spots and stuff like that from the Super Bowl, which happened yesterday. And so we've got all of those up surfing around the net. We'll try and collate some of them together to put up on the website, but they're only like 30-second vignettes kind of things, little tasters what are expecting up and coming movies. The one which caught my eye was the one for the next Bond film. We saw that first
footage from that. I also like the 10 Cloverfield Lane one.
Yeah, that was a good one as well.
That one, and very weird, very cryptic, but yet kind of showing something at the end of that, which I sat there, I was like, whoa, what was that, kind of thing.
Yes, so that was a good one. And also bring to attention, the first Ghostbuster trailer is going to drop at the end of the month. Well, it's going to release before the end of the month, which they need to do it because that film is only a few months away, and so people are actually chomping at the bit, wondering, is the reason why they're holding back the trailer so long because the film itself
does it look awful?
So bad.
I have no interest in it at all. Honestly, I'm not a big Ghostbusters fan anyway. I'm in the minority there, but I'm not a big fan of that. I tell you what, I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere else, but I've just seen it just now actually. But before that, when I saw a preview the other night, I saw a trailer before it for a film which absolutely terrified me, and it looks like a really impressive, scary horror movie, and that is The Witch. I honestly sat there and I'm just thinking, it's one of the freakiest trailers, and so the air of tension around it is so. Ugh.
That's Stuart territory. That I've been eager to see The Witch for a little while. There's another film which was released in America last week, which we get in a couple of weeks' time, called The Boy, which I'm
I know of that one.
See, that's the one about the doll.
The doll, yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite eager to see that one. Not mixing it up with another film that was released last year called The
Robert,
Boy, about
isn't?
a 9-year-old possessed kid. But I'm eager to see that and The Witch. The Witch looks a really good film, so that's my territory. The only other news I've got is Universal have announced the release dates for Fast and Furious 9 and 10. 9 will be
yes, I did see that.
2019, with 10 getting a release date of April the 2nd, 2021, which would be the 20th anniversary of the series.
It's odd how that kind of happens, but it's. I have no problem with that. I would like them to go a little less fantastical than they did in the last one. I'd like it to be a little bit more grounded, personally. But I do maintain that the Fast and Furious films are actually a decent kind of well-written, dumb action films, but they're well-written and well-acted and decent. They tick all the boxes.
Yeah. Will Smith has said that he's definitely going to do Bad Boys 3 with Martin Lawrence.
Again, no problem with that, as long as it's. I mean, the second one isn't as great as the first one is, but the first one is a classic action film. It is. Talking about Michael Baker's last week with 13 Hours, which I'm disappointed isn't in the top 10. But that's a first sign of Michael Bay being back to kind of his action roots and not doing stupid, leery, horrible, just terrible, vapid action movies. And it's back to sort of form for him. And I hope that will continue if he does Bad Boys 3.
Yeah. And the only other thing I saw, it's not news in general, it's just, have you seen the supposed rejected script for Gremlins 3?
I haven't. This is the first thing I'm hearing anything about it.
Yeah, there was a rejected script for Gremlins 3, which set, sort of like, it answered one question.
It didn't do the critters thing and go to space, did it?
No, it didn't. It answered one question which fans have always sort of like picked at the plot of the Gremlin series, which is that if you feed a gremlin after midnight, it turns out the way it is. However, it's midnight in every single part of the globe. So the way this script actually explained that is, a gremlin only turns into the green nasty thing if it's midnight where that gremlin is.
Mm-hmm.
So if it eats food in America and it's midnight there, that's when it turns into that grisly gremlin thing. However, if the gremlin itself in gizmo form is in London and it's turned midnight in a different part of the world, it'll still only be the gizmo form. So they explained that, and the film itself was going to centre around Gizmo. He's found in a small little remote town by this person. He's took on a plane where, unfortunately, alongside another gremlin inside this case where he is, manages to eat some peanuts when the plane is actually crossed into a time zone where it has turned to midnight. So a gremlin gets loose on the plane, manages to crash the plane itself, multiplies and takes over a small town, and it's up to this kid who finds Gizmo to try and stop the gremlins. That was the plot of Gremlins 3.
It's the whole thing of don't explain everything. That's the problem with things now. They explain everything too much. Just leave some mystery. Just, you know, it's the whole thing. It's like midichlorians in Star Wars. No.
But that was the rejected script for Gremlins 3.
Mm.
So you can probably see why it just never surfaced.
Because it sounds awful.
And too complex for the series. That's just silly. It's just too many layers on there. You maybe could have a Gremlins film set on a plane, and so we'll have had snakes on a plane, zombies on a plane, now Gremlins on a plane. We've had ghosts on a plane. There's a film called 7500, which is still yet to get released over here, from the guy who did Ju-On the Grudge, Takeshi Shimizu. He directed that, and so we've had ghosts on a plane, zombies on a plane, snakes on a plane, and now Gremlins on a plane. Why not? It's better than in space. That's all I've got news-wise. Told you it was a bit lacking on news.
Yeah. Box office top 10 then. We'll go through these. Well, we've got number 10, which is Turandot Met Opera, but we'll kind of just go over that.
Replace that with number 11, and number 11 would have been Room.
Yeah.
So technically it is number 10, but Room is fantastic. If there's a cinema that's showing it.
You don't happen to know where 13 Hours came to? I see it's obviously not in the top 10, but I don't have the 15. Is it in there?
I'm not 100% certain where it actually appeared in that. I'll have to try and dig around to find the chart for it.
Okay.
I would just go on to the next film and then I'll probably find it.
Okay, number 9 is Creed.
13 Hours went in at number 15 actually.
15, okay, that's disappointing.
Yeah, which is quite low for a film of Michael Bay's. So, Creed, very good film. Like Andy said last week, he's not a huge fan of boxing, but it's sort of like you don't have to be to enjoy Creed. It's brilliant from an acting standpoint of view, from both Michael B. Johnson and Sylvester Stallone. It's annoying that Sylvester Stallone is the one who's getting applauded when it's Michael B. Johnson who's doing most of the work.
Jordan.
So I think, why am I saying Johnson? Michael B. Jordan, he's doing most of the work anyway, and so it's his film. It's just slightly annoying that it is sort of like Stallone who's getting the credit. But yeah, it's a very well created film.
And number 8 is Daddy's Home.
Not seen it.
Yeah, I don't think you had yet. I think it's perfectly fine. It has had sort of very mixed reviews, a lot of negative ones, but I thought it was kind of the duo of Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg working fine, like he did again from the other guys, and it's not laugh out loud all the way through, but it has definitely got enough laughs to kind of just pass the quota. Number 7 is Capture the Flag.
Yeah, which is a very lackluster animated film. What I found really annoying and laughable about the movie, and it's no spoilers whatsoever because it happened in real life as well. When America managed to land on the moon, it was said that the moon wasn't supposedly for anybody. It was for everybody on the planet. Yet they plant an American flag. So you're saying that it's for everybody on the planet, yet it's you, America, who is claiming it. Really? And they emphasize that in Capture the Flag. It's just the rest of the film sort of like is indicative to what that is and what that symbolizes. The film itself is just, it's really badly animated. It's a very ugly animated film. It just does not bring anything different, new, interesting to the animated genre, and it just thinks that it's funny by seeing the word rap with a capital C about 78 times in a kids film because it's supposedly going to make young kids giggle. It's a PG, so they're going to giggle every single time they hear that word. That does not make a good film. It makes a stupid film. So yeah, I would avoid it. There is better animated films out there, even in these 10:30 kids slots where you're getting to see films like Minions again, and even The Good Dinosaur. It's a much better film than the lackluster Capture the Flag.
The Big Short is at number 6.
Yeah, you liked this film much more than I did. I did like the film. There's got some fantastic acting in the movie. I think Steve Carell is probably the best in the movie, in my opinion. But I think you appreciated the movie much more than I did.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I just really thought it was very cleverly and smartly done. The fact that it manages to not only be technical, which, I mean, it links with Margin Call, which is a film which we loved. And the thing about Margin Call that we loved is that it didn't try and go technical. It was just very cleverly about the people and what they did in the situation. Whereas Big Short actually does explain how everything works, and it managed to do it in quite a sort of cleverly succinct way that it makes sense. And it's not they don't explain it all in detail, but you have an understanding of what they're talking about and why they're reacting the way they are, and it helps to actually, I think, make the characters' reactions a lot more realistic, a lot more understandable.
Yeah.
Spotlight is at number 5, a new entry.
Yeah, I sort of like butchered my thoughts on Spotlight last week. I listened to it and I was going, God, that's a mumbling mess what I've just said there. Even I can't understand what I said. The way I was sort of like going about Spotlight, it's got very much in common with the film Rim, in the fact that it takes a very hard subject but doesn't sort of like push it down your throat like a lot of films would. And it is a very well acted film. It's not a very intense movie because there is no like full on shouting and all that kind of stuff apart from one scene. But that shows you what kind of movie that you're watching. It's a movie that's supposed to interest you, and it's a movie where you find out facts and things that you didn't realise was as bad as it was indicated. Because I think everybody knew the kind of scandal that was happening in the Catholic Church, but nobody knew the kind of nastiness that was happening and how so like intense and how over the top it was. The prime example, when they were sort of like looking at the clergy around in the area where they're at, they thought maybe 7-8 of them could be involved in this, when in fact it was 90 plus. So it just shows you the magnitude of things like this that's happening. Even the fact that a big newspaper in the Boston Globe was sort of like covering it up in a way. And it shows the kind of influence that the Catholic Church does have over people. And it's much more of an interesting movie from that standpoint of view, rather than take a very harsh subject and sort of like make you feel disgusted for watching it, because you never do feel that when watching Spotlight.
Number 4 is Ride Along 2.
It's a movie that should never make you angry. It doesn't make you angry because it's not that bad. It's not as bad as Ride Along. It never fully goes back on like the fart jokes and the kind of things that you would expect in this kind of movie, the lowest common denominator. It's still not a very funny film at all. It's just it doesn't make you feel annoyed after watching it like the first one did.
It does have the whole thing of the whole Taken sequel thing though, of being a 15 in the original film and then this one being a 12, so they've obviously targeted it for a lower audience to try and get the big numbers in.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Star Wars The Force Awakens, which we don't have anything more to say.
2 billion now.
Yeah, that's all we need to say. Number 2, new entry. I'm really curious to see what you have to say about Dirty Grandpa.
Yeah, because I've seen it, and on rare occasions me and Andy might agree, on most occasions me and Andy disagree. So it's more of a rarity when we do agree on something. I don't agree with Andy on the Dirty Grandpa. I personally think that Dirty Grandpa is an absolutely atrocious movie.
I did think that as well.
Yeah, I think it's much more abhorrent and much more nasty than you think it is. It's just a despicable movie because the fact that it takes 2 actors in the form of Zac Efron and Robert De Niro and just kills their career. It's like sticking a stake through a vampire's heart, but not once, multiple times, just grabbing the stake and constantly pounding at that heart. Because the film, it just relies on giving vulgarity to Robert De Niro's character and thinking, oh, that's going to be funny, and then just get Zac Efron to play sort of like this guy who's sort of like a whipping boy in a way, and then turn around because of his grandpa doing despicable, nasty stuff. It's just an atrocious, offensive, horrendous, nasty pile of work. It's the kind of thing that you would wish would catch fire as soon as the projectionist starts the movie. The second they press play on any kind of device, you're hoping for it to just go poof, and that's it, because it should never have existed. It's terrible. It's guaranteed to probably make our 10 worst of the year. So already in the space of like just over 1.5 months, just under 1.5 months, we've had sort of like the yin and the yang. One of the best films of the year in Room, and one of the worst films in the year in Dirty Grandpa.
Which means that the number one movie for a second week in a row is Revenant.
Third week in a row
Third
for
week?
The Revenant. Yeah.
I'm not
third
thinking
week.
7
No,
weeks.
no, it feels like only 2 weeks, but
It doesn't
yeah.
really.
Third week for Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu's sort of like bleak thriller in a way. I keep iterating that Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't do very much in the movie, but his character has a lot to do. The kind of thing that he goes through. But Leonardo DiCaprio, and then any kind of speech or anything like that there, he just doesn't have very much to do. But actions speak louder than words in this movie. And it's full of action, full of fantastic camera work, and the cinematography is definitely top notch in there. Does it deserve Oscars and stuff like that? Maybe with a push, but there are films out there I think are better deserved than something like The Revenant. Leonardo DiCaprio is probably going to win Best Actor for his role in this movie, and I wouldn't be surprised if Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu wins director for this one. So yeah, it's. I think there are better movies out there than this one, but still, it is a really good film.
So that's it for this week's top 10 and this week's news. So coming up in our new releases, let's go away with our first one then, because we've got 4 fairly big films this week. So let's go with the first one.
Goosebumps. Based on the classic children's 80s TV series from America, and we got it over here in the 90s. It's based on the books by R.L.Stein, and then it's directed by Robert Letterman. And in the film, teenager Zach Cooper, played by Dylan Minetti, is sort of like being moved by his mother into a neighborhood where he doesn't want to move into. He's moved away from all of his friends. It's the very typical kind of story. He looks across the way and sees a neighbour and sort of like besotted by her. It's instant puppy love kind of thing, played by Odia Rush, who plays Hannah. However, Hannah's got a very protective uncle. The uncle does not want her to make any kind of friends with anybody, let alone the guy next door. However, he's really intrigued and he starts up a friendship with that. He breaks into the house one night with his friend, who's played by Ryan Lee, and unfortunately unleashes terror when it's discovered that the uncle of the house, played by Jack Black, is in fact R.L. Stein. And R.L. Stein, as the title suggests, he created the Goosebumps movies and the Goosebumps TV series and the books, and yeah, his creations have managed to be unleashed onto the world. Here's a clip.
I could have killed you!
That was a terrible throw.
What are you doing here? Go home!
Not until you explain what's going on.
I can't explain it.
We were almost just eaten by Frosty the Snowman, so try!
Okay, look! When I was younger, I created my own friends. Monsters. Demons. To terrorize my neighborhood and all the kids that made fun of me. And they became real to me. And then one day, they actually became real. My monsters literally leapt off the page. As long as the books remain locked, we're safe. But when they open, well, you've just seen what happens.
So, as Jack Black's character there of R.L. Stein has indicated, all hell is breaking loose because all these creations have managed to be unleashed, and so it's up to them to try and get the creations back where they belong, including the nasty ventriloquist doll Slappy, who is in a way controlling all of these monsters to seek revenge. Slappy also voiced by Jack Black. Now, if you're a fan of the Goosebumps series in any way, shape or form, and from the TV series up to the books, you will find something interesting in this film. Because Jack Black, he sort of like relishes these kind of roles, the ones where he's allowed to go a bit OTT with these characters, and because the fact that he's not just playing one in the form of R.L. Stein, which he suits down to a T, to be honest, he's doing the voiceovers of things like Slappy and other characters in the film. The Gnomes, for example, you've got if you've seen the clip of it, you've got these nice
it's quite amusing, yeah.
Yeah, you've got these nice, lovely gnomes who think, they're friendly, and then all of a sudden they come and start throwing forks at them and stuff like that. They want to kill them more so than any of the other creations, and so he's having a lot of fun. And I think the film itself is having a lot of fun with what it is creating. It's not trying to do anything special, but what it is actually doing is something that's entertaining. It flows at a nice pace. It's got some really interesting moments in the movie. There are a few scenes which make the younger audience scared. They'll jump out of the seat. The werewolf, for example, in the shopping mall might make a few kids sort of like cringe a little bit, and especially Slappy. You would not want a ventriloquist doll that psychotic to be your friend, or even to go after you. It's got some nice, interesting family moments in the film as well. Some nice little twists and turns, and overall, it's just enjoyable. It's nothing overly special, but just enjoyable. It never overstays its welcome. It's always got something to show or something to do, rather than laxing in like the middle section where it might sag a little bit or try to sort of like talk down to any kind of specific audience. So it's an enjoyable film. It's not up there with the best, but it's still it's fun.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of it is. I mean, obviously it is a PG-rated movie, so it does play it safe. Although there are some moments when it's kind of like a bit cagey, and some moments where you're watching it and you're going, "Oh, is that a bit sort of 12A more than PG-13?" A couple of the things like you're saying about the doll is quite freaky. And will probably give some people nightmares. I'm surprised there's a clown that makes appearances in it, but not that many. I'm surprised that there's not more of a sort of a horror aspect of the clown thing, which has probably been left out so that it could get a lower rating. But it's kind of got that whole Jumanji Zathura thing going on again, of the kids film, the big adventure thing, and I don't want to say that it's. You can tell that it's doing the whole thing of the we want to be cagey, but we don't want to be that cagey at times, and I think it's fun and it's enjoyable, but I think that it's a film that parents and kids will go to see. The kids will definitely love it. The parents sitting there will go, well, yeah, it's okay, but they won't love it. I think they'll just get into it and go along with it, and they maybe enjoy it more with their kids, obviously. But I think if adults were watching it on their own, they watch it and they go, yeah, it was okay, but I didn't love it.
I think it's got more in common with the movies in style and tone to like 80s kind of films, the adventures in there, because it is braver with its age certificate that it's got, or when we saw things like Paranorman or movies like that, when we got those 3 kids films where they're sort of like they are rated PG, but they sort of in a way push the envelope of a PG and get very close to a 12A, but never overstep into the 12A territory. Box Trolls, for example, does that as well. There's a few little gruesomely gross scenes in Box Trolls, and it's nice to see these kind of films because, like I said, it never talks down to its intended audience. It always seems to be wanting to have fun, but tries to add a little bit of spice here and there rather than being very bland and plain and very vanilla. At least it's entertaining itself and as entertaining the audience as well. So I liked it for that. It's going to date itself badly in about 5-10 years time. When you watch it, it's gonna start looking like a Percy Jackson movie. No offense to Percy Jackson, the original one anyway, the sequel is awful, but no offense to that. If you watch Percy Jackson now, you can start to see it is telling its age a little bit. And so when you heavily use CGI, especially in all the creations like Slappy and the werewolves and vampires and even the big wheel sequence in the film itself, it is going to age itself in 5 to 10 years time. But just enjoy it. It's simple as that. It's easy for critics to pick at these kind of movies because it's simple canon fodder, when in fact you should just be switching off your brain and just realising it's a 90-minute entertainment thing. And if you treat it like that, you will get something out of it, rather than just being fastidious.
Okay, moving on to Point Break, which is directed by Erickson Core. It is a remake of the 1991 movie Point Break, which had Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze. Here, this time we have Luke Bracey playing Utah, the main character, which was played originally by Keanu Reeves, and we have Edgar Ramirez even playing Bodhi, who was played by Patrick Swayze in the original. The story is centered around the new young unsort of tested FBI agent of Utah, who is looking into things as he's sort of brought into this new task force who are looking at this particular string of a couple of robberies that have happened, with fantastical things happening where basically people robbed a building where there was a 21st floor, and the way they went out is they basically went out the windows on motorbikes and then with parachutes. He of course has an idea about this, having an experience, a past to do with all the sort of extreme sports and things that are going on, starts looking into this and realising that there have been other robberies and such going on, and that these group are actually people that are trying to get to something called the Ozaki 8. Here's a clip.
What are you doing here, Utah?
What do you mean?
I remember you. Your reputation.
More balls than talent.
Some said maybe that was why you were so good. Because you lacked fear. But what I saw on that wave yesterday, that was different.
You lacked respect.
There was no connection.
There was no beauty.
Maybe I'm chasing something, like you are.
What do you think I'm chasing?
You're chasing the 8.
That's a myth. But the real question is, what are you after?
So here's the thing with Point Break. The original film is one of my favourite films. The original was directed by Katheryn Bigalow, who, this was back before she became sort of really well known for doing things like Zero Dark 30 and such. And it's a film that is one of my favourite films, if not my favourite film. It's a great action film, it's a great thriller. It has this magical element of, you have all these things like the surfing sequences and the skydiving sequences that I've never surfed, I've never skydived, but in those films I was there. You got the kind of the feel of okay, I get why the people do this. There is an adrenaline aspect to this, the whole adrenaline thing that you get from this. It was a mix of the way it's shot, the way it's edited, the way the music is done in the film, because the music for that film is a great musical soundtrack, musical score, and you have that element along with the whole thriller thing of, you know, the character of Utah, who is a young, you know, untested young FBI agent who ends up getting in with the crowd and ends up befriending the leader of them, and ends up finding himself in a situation where he's torn between his two situations of wanting to be the good FBI agent and also wanting to sort of help his friend, because even though he's a bad guy, he's not that bad a bad guy, sort of thing, you know. And you have this interesting sort of dichotomy of it, then the problem of it, and none of that is present in this film. None of it at all. I saw the trailer of this film a while back and I thought, it doesn't look great, but you know, obviously trailers you never tell, but it looked like the one thing it looked like is it took the whole thing of Point Break and updated it to having the whole thing of a subject of eco-terrorism, which is what it does have, sort of very tiny sort of strands of that in this, but it just doesn't bother with that. It doesn't try and do anything. It tries to go, what we're going to do is we're going to have, you know, the whole skydiving thing. We're going to have people who are crazy doing stunts. We're going to have an opening sequence where guys riding motorbikes on dirt bikes and doing jumps across mountains and stuff and things. And it's just about big action sequences and no real story apart from these characters doing these crazy things. Why? Because they're trying to chase the 8. They're trying to do these 8 trials that supposedly will lead them to be enlightened. Nothing to do with the whole thing of stealing money for any reason and stuff. And it's boring because of the fact of that there's nothing to believe in. There's nothing to follow. The action sequences, except for one sequence is good. The rest of them are just very plain and by the numbers. And there is one sequence where you've seen these wingsuit things, yeah?
Yeah.
There's one sequence where they jump off a mountain and they're flying in these wingsuits, and they're shot brilliantly. I mean, the guys actually did this. It's proper stunt work. It's not CGI effect. I don't think it was actually any CGI effect in that sequence at all. I don't know, I could be wrong, but in that sequence there was amazing shots where these four guys basically jump off a mountain with, obviously they've got parachutes, but they don't open them yet. They're just gliding on these suits that let them, drift through the air, and as if they are flying. They get a lot more maneuverability than just jumping and skydiving. And they're going through these mountains, and they basically fly through a gorge that they're maneuvering through it, and it's amazing stunt work, and it looks great. And there's even a shot where there's a camera in place, and they buzz this camera basically, and they buzz the ground. And you see the grass actually getting hit by them as they go past it, and I wish there had been more of that in the film, because the rest of it is just a snore fest, and you don't care. And the characters don't care, because you're just sitting there and there's none of that connection between the characters. Luke Bracey is terrible in the film. He's, for someone who's supposed to be supporting the whole film, and hold on, it doesn't have the backbone of that, because his character basically has no backbone. You don't care about him as much as they try to set up the whole thing. Oh, he's a guilty person and everything. He shows no signs of that through the whole thing. He just is basically. It's honestly soulless, soul-sucking. Edgar Ramirez is trying to do something more, but you still you don't feel as if he's really there for anything other than the paycheck, which is exactly the same thing you can say for Ray Winston, who's being his partner, the partner of Luke Bracey's character. He's playing Pappas, which in the original film was Gary Busey. Gary Busey, who is a terrible, cheesy actor, and yet manages to be in a role better than Ray Winston. I'm sorry, goodbye, that's it, that's the end, that's all I need to say.
So it is really that bad, is it?
It is. It's just... And the thing is, it's not as if it's not trying in the action sequences, because the action sequences, they're trying, but it's just literally there's no pulse. I swear to God, sitting there, if this film was a person lying in a bed, they would have been given electric shock all the way through it, because you would have found no pulse.
It's just a shame, isn't it, when something like that happens, because it besmirches the original. I know you'll get a lot of people sort of like saying, well, you have got the original anyway, but that puts people off from going back to watch the original if they've not seen the original version of it, and if they see sort of like the remake or reboot, it puts people off from going to see it. So in a way, it does besmirch the original. It's
the whole thing of that. As I say, when I saw the trailer, I thought, oh no, they're making Point Break, why do that? But there is this thing of eco-terrorism, which is an interesting thing, because obviously since the original film the world has changed with things like 9/11, so make it a film that is more, you got to make a film that's apt to today's sensibilities and things, and have it be, people, the world financially is not in the best place as it could have been back when it was in the 90s. So obviously eco-terrorism, I thought, oh, maybe they're going to do something about the finances of Wall Street and that causing things, and nope, we're just doing dumb action films and having a sequence where people jump out of a plane with big massive stacks of money, and they cut it loose to disperse it back to the people, and that's it. It's not anything about actually all being like Robin Hoods or anything. It's literally doing that for a cover because they want to do something else, and it's just, honestly, they could have done so much with it. It's not as if you get we've had loads of remakes that have been done, things like Total Recall. Total Recall is not better than the first film, but compared to Point Break and the Point Break remake, it's way better than this. It's actually is an entertaining film. This is just a pile of mess.
Yeah, it just shows you how bad the film might have done over in the UK. The official figures aren't out until tomorrow. But I was checking my cinemas listings, and already as soon as the Friday listings come out, they've already relegated to just one screen from Friday. So that gives you an indication of the kind of thing that's done at the box office. And
it's not done that badly, I don't think, either, because the fact when I saw it, it was in a screen that was on a Friday morning, so not at a busy time, and yet the screen was half capacity, which is you don't get that on most nights in some things.
Still, though, I wish you would actually open up Hollywood's eyes and to them the fact that these remakes are now becoming more of an annoyance rather than just them cashing in, because it's understandable them cashing in on a name that might have done well back when the original film was out. But when you've got a gap so big that sort of like people who you think that's going to go and see it are the ones who originally saw the original version of it, well, they won't want to see a remake of a film that they really enjoyed. Just stop doing it or tone it down a little bit more, because it's now becoming so ridiculous that they are not earning them.
I don't get this whole thing of remaking films that were good films. If you want to remake a film, remake something that was terrible, because then you can't make it worse. If you can make it worse, that's something special. I mean, you might end up coming out with a real stinker, but at least you can say, that film, that was absolutely terrible, that everyone trashed it and it's worse than everything. We made a film worse than that. Do that at least. Don't make a film, that film that everyone really, really loves, and it's kind of got a cult classic thing now going on where everyone's loving it and rediscovering it. Yeah, we're going to remake that, and we're going to make that better.
Or at least take the idea of the original film and sort of like use that as a template and try and build on it. Try do something with it too. Do something a bit different with it rather than sort of like copying its heartbeat. Because most of the time you're not going to please the people who were supposedly intended to go and see the film.
And the thing is, well, they don't even have the main character with the same name. They give him the name Utah. In the original, it was Johnny Utah. In this one, his name's Johnny something else. I can't remember, but Utah is a nickname. I mean, come on, just leave it. No, move on. Move on. Next film.
Dad's Army then. So we're not going into better territory here then. So I've not seen Point Break, so I can't obviously put Dad's Army and Point Break.
I've seen Dad's Army. I don't know what you're going to say about it. I know my views on Dad's Army. Dad's Army is miles ahead of Point Break, even on entertaining action.
In this case, it's directed by Oliver Parker, and it's set where the original TV series set in exactly the same time frame. So in 1944, during World War II, in Walmington-on-Sea, where you've got pretty much the most bumbling collection of people to ever enroll in the army, and it shows you how desperate the army was to try and get some kind of soldiers. So they've evidently put this group of people, including Captain Mannering, Sergeant Wilson, Private Godfrey, into this small little town of Walmington-on-Sea, because they know very little is going to happen to it. And so you do get the feel of the TV series where they just seem to be going about their ordinary day-to-day lives when in doing the simple bumbling things, while each one of them has their own jobs. However, stirring into the mix, you've got Catherine Zeta-Jones's character, who shows up one day, who claims to be somebody from a magazine who's doing a piece on the group. Here's a clip.
Madam, I'm most terribly sorry.
I thought I saw a tree move.
I had to, Captain. Mr. Godfrey wanted to use me as a convenience. I'm afraid my coordinator called rather loudly.
I fear we mistook you for a Nazi spy. Yes, thank you, Walker.
Miss Winters, Associated Press.
Captain Mannering, Warmington Home Guard.
What a coincidence. I'm doing an article on the Home Guard of Warmington-on-Sea for the Lady magazine.
Us? In a real magazine? We're going up in the world, lads.
Well, you come highly recommended.
And so in that clip there, Rose Winters played by Catherine Zeta-Jones. You heard Captain Mannering played by Toby Jones. You've also got Michael Gambon, who plays Private Godfrey. You didn't hear in that clip, but Bill Nighy takes the role of Sergeant Wilson. And then you've got other people played by Tom Courtney, Mark Gatiss, Blake Harrison, Sarah Lancashire. So you've got a very interesting cast there thrown into this. There might be some kind of underhanded plot there. It's discovered that there is a spy, and so they have to discover who the spy is. And this is the thing with the Dad's Army movie. It tries to be too overly complex when the TV series was always very simple. It always relied on very simple kind of premises with very simple jokes to sustain its 25-minute, 30-minute running time. In this, they've pretty much taken the same kind of blueprint from the television series and stretched it over a movie, and it never will work. It will never work when you've only got enough content to fill 25 minutes. That will never fill an hour and a half. And it proves it in this movie, because there are times when the film itself is just trying its hardest to breathe life into what it's creating, when in fact it's just not doing anything at all. And it's just a pity for the actors involved, because you've got such an impressive cast, but they've got such lackluster writing to feed from, that what is happening on screen is nowhere near as good as you were expecting. Pretty much every single joke for me fell flat. None of it felt like it was an interesting, funny film like the TV series was. It was a very funny TV series. There were people in the screening who were laughing, but I think they were at the age which was sort of like this movie's aimed at. But that still shouldn't be what the film is. It needs to actually appease to more of a wider range, a more wider age group. And there was the fact that there was a couple in there which looked to be in the very early 20s, and again, they didn't laugh. So this film, you can see the kind of audience that it's aimed at, but it's just lacking. It's just lacking in any kind of funniness, in any kind of inventiveness, just anything. It's very geriatric in a way, and that's sort of like bad to see, but unfortunately that's the case. It's just not funny, and it's painful to see that, because I did quite like the TV series. I grew up on the television series. My parents sort of like, it was one of those TV programs where they forced you to watch it, and you sort of in a way didn't mind, alongside things like Heidi High and Hello Hello. You didn't mind watching it because you maybe find a few of the jokes very funny. It's just in this, when they do try to be funny, it's always the lowest kind of common denominator of things, where one of the characters has fallen over, or one of the characters is dressing up funny, or one of the characters is spouting off a catchphrase that was maybe hilarious about 40 years ago, but now it's just not. And when they keep on pushing that kind of thing down your throat, it's just starting to become monotonous. So I just didn't like Dad's Army, unfortunately. It just did not hit a kind of resonant note with me.
I was never a big fan of the show growing up. I was aware of it, I'd seen bits of it, but it's just not my sort of thing. And I saw the film, and I was disappointed with it, because I wanted it to be funnier. The trailer looked funnier. I didn't think it was going to be big, massive laugh out loud, but even so, I was just underwhelmed with it, because a lot of the jokes were just very, very, very flat or repetitive in particular, or just I only raised a giggle from myself. There were a few sort of people in the audience laughed more, but majority of the audience was the same kind of more laughing, and then this person was laughing, and you're kind of like, well, why are they laughing so much, And it's one of these films that kind of thinks it's being funnier than it is, and that's not part of the joke. It's just it's part of the shame. It's also one of these things where towards the end, then it changes and it decides, we're going to ramp up the action sort of thing a bit and everything. And as much as I said, it does beat Point Break for action sequences. It's literally a thing you go, well, it's a comedy, and then all of a sudden this happens. It has that problem of what these comedies do, that have a whole thing where it's comedy all the way through, and then all of a sudden it becomes real, and it doesn't work. You can't change it like that. You have to have a consistent tone in it. It's not. You can't do that to the film and do that to the characters, because it doesn't work. You just lose interest in it. I just walked out and I thought, bit of a damp squid. It wasn't terrible. It could have been so much more worse, but it should have been so much more better than it was.
Definitely, it should be much, much more better than what it is. It's not as bad as a lot of these TV programs that's been turned into films. So the things like the Harry Hills and less said about any of the rest of them, the better. So at least it never goes down that horrible territory, but it's sort of like in an alleyway which is beside that. It's in the kind of thing where a joke that was funny 40 years ago is never going to be as funny now if you try to bring it up to speed and put it on the big screen. It's just not going to work. You need to be much more inventive than what you've done. And it's just annoying on the fact that you have such a stellar cast there, such acting talent, yet even they can't bring any life into the... Really, I blame the script. It's the script's fault. It's the direction is fine. The acting is fine. It's the script. I think it's just such a lackluster script that there's nothing in there for them to work with.
I kept wondering, because if they'd had someone like Martin Freeman there, I'm sure he would have done some stuff that would have been funny, because also he can do that as well. He's a great physical comedy actor as well. That nothing against, you know, people like Bill Nye and stuff who can do stuff like that, but I don't think they're as good sort of improvising that kind of thing. And Martin Freeman can do that. You see him, you know, when he does that double take thing and stuff. If he'd been in this, I think it may have been, and it would have maybe been a thing that would have spread to other people. But even then, it should have been in the writing, not in the casting.
Yeah, because my guess is the writers just thought, oh, let's just copy what happened in the 60s. You can't do that. You really just can't do that, because it works for 25 minutes. It doesn't work for an hour and a half. And in this case, there isn't even 25 minutes of good content in the film.
Okay.
So it just didn't work.
Right, on to the last cinema release this week, which is Trumbo, which is directed by Jay Roach. It is the true story of the whole thing around the blacklist in America of writers in Hollywood. And in particular, the screenwriter Dalton Trumbo, even with Bryan Cranston playing the main role. So in 1947, there was this whole thing about communism. There had just been the end of the war. America was very much against sort of a public opinion of anti-communism, with the East and everything sort of going on with that, and so of course there are certain people who are either communists or affiliated with the Communist Party, and the whole thing is then that they become sort of questioned about this. The whole thing about that then is that they are subpoenaed in front of the I can't think what it's called, not the grand jury, but the Senate of in America, and ultimately end up being blacklisted from being able to write and work as screenwriters, which obviously for majority of them is their bread and butter, the way they make their living. So they find themselves in situations, and he finds himself in a situation where he, being a very well known and very confirmed as being a great writer, has to find a workaround with one of his colleagues who is still accepted as a writer in Hollywood. Here's a clip.
It's funny. It's breezy and romantic. Who wrote it?
You did, old boy. You stick your name on my labor, hand it into your studio, and we're in business.
Look, it is just some luck that I wasn't subpoenaed and blacklisted myself. The hearings are going to start up again soon. I'm going to get called and canned.
Well, then quick, lad. Let's sell this little beauty and split the take 50-50.
Ridiculous. I'll take 10%.
You'll take 20. No, 30. And that's my final offer.
You're the worst businessman ever. I hate the title.
Me too.
Really? What's wrong with it?
The Princess and the Peasant.
Yes.
Please, Trumbo, it sounds like a puppet show.
Well, then change it.
I did.
Really? You think this title's better? Roman Holiday.
I like it.
Who invited you?
I did. She's my favorite Trumbo.
So here's the thing with Trumbo. I went into it knowing that it was Jay Roach who directed it. Jay Roach of Austin Powers, Jay Roach of Meet the Fockers, and I walked out completely blown away by not only his direction. I, again, as always, blown away by Bryan Cranston. I was blown away by the reverence that the film has for that time and for the whole thing of the blacklist and the whole thing of the look and the feel of it. There's some great sequences where it's obviously shot and looks nowadays, but there are sequences in it which are shot which have actors recreating scenes from films. In particular, there's a whole sequence, I forget the actor's name that's playing him, but there's an actor basically playing the young version of Kirk Douglas at the time when he was filming Spartacus, and they have scenes with him, and they've recreated those sequences to show him on the screen at the same time in the role, and it looks amazing. You genuinely think you're sitting there watching them watching the sequence of that happening and stuff. And there's not only that, there are sequences of the whole thing when they're at the actual the Senate things. I forget what it's called. I can't think what it's called, but the whole thing in America with the whole government and such. And these were all televised at the time or shown on newsreels and such. And they have that look. They have basically the footage has been grained up, or grained down, I would say rather. And it's all the as much as I don't like black and white, I struggle with it. It looks like that. It has that the sound mix on it. It sounds like. I literally sat there and thought, I'm watching something from the 1940s. I'm not watching something from 2016. And then in one of those sequences, it fades into that. It changes from being a small thing on the screen to the full image of the screen and colour and everything. And I genuinely was blown away by that way that it brought you into it. You had that reverence of feeling, I'm watching something that's 70 years old, but I'm sat here right now basically, and I'm there, I'm in it, I feel it. And not only that, but you have the great writing of the characters. I mean, obviously they're real, but to an extent they're characters. Bryan Cranston is this whole thing of he's there with his family, his kids, and also his wife played by Diane Lane, and the struggle between them because of the fact that she's under a great deal of strain from this. You have the whole thing of he then, as he does make a deal with a Hollywood producer of a small studio which kind of doesn't care about the whole thing of the blacklist, but they bring him on as kind of like a ghostwriter for a lot of their scripts. They have problems with them, so he becomes this man who's sort of forced himself into working as kind of a script doctor to such a degree that it means he's working 7 days a week and not able to do anything with his family, and the way that it affected him all the way up to the outcome of the whole thing of the blacklist and stuff. So it's a really well written, well constructed, well directed and brilliantly performed film that I genuinely, as much as I was looking forward to it and I thought it looks interesting, I like the idea of the subject, I was curious about it, and I thought, and things I'd heard about it, I didn't expect it to be as good as it is. I don't think it is amazing film, but I think it's really, really sort of punching well above its weight, especially for it being Jay Roach directing it.
Yeah, I might give it a watch actually, because I'm sort of like interested in that territory. It's in. There has been films based on the blacklist, which this movie's based about, but you see them very few and far between, and so when they do surface, it's an interesting thing to watch, and especially coming from a director who you wouldn't associate with those kind of films. You would associate with the sort of like gross out humour kind of comedy movies, so it's interesting to see how they tackle that kind of film.
He's, Jay Roach definitely now for me is a director to go, oh, Jay Roach, he did Austin Powers, he did Meet the Fockers, and this might be good. He could have been doing things where he just carries on like that and steps down and eventually doing Ride Along 3. No, he's actually stepped up and gone on to things like this, and definitely as much as no problem with things like Austin Powers, because that was a great film, it's a completely different ball game to go from doing comedies and stuff like that to this.
Do you think he should actually stick with that, or do you think he sort of like should just go in between it? So instead of like tiring himself out like he did with the comedies, with the Austin Powers series, in a way each one of them started to become a bit more too ridiculous and losing the feel of what the Austin Powers series was like. Do you think he should just like go between two different genres, like the comedy and do a drama, or do you think he should just stick with the drama for a little while?
I have no problem with him doing those comedy things like that. The problem is that comedy genre has now become so sullied with the types of films that we have now. It's no longer the same genre it was 20 years ago when he did Austin Powers. So if he's going to do that, go back to doing comedies as he did them. Don't do comedies as they're done now.
And my guess is don't bleed them together. So, like,
you could do not really outlandish stupid comedy. There are some moments in this where it's witty and it has some great one-liners. There's a particularly great one-liner that when Trumbo first meets the studio executive, played by John Goodman as well. John Goodman, as ever, always great. But played this scene with him, and he has a line about something that happened after he's been in prison, and he references back to that, and it's a fantastic line. I don't want to say what it is because I genuinely was just like, that was brilliant, and it was a good tension breaker in that part of the film. It has these little moments like that where it does things to break it up and to make it so that it is a witty moment, but it's not a laugh out loud comedy all the way through it, sort of thing. And I wouldn't have a problem with them doing a thing like I think a feeling like that, you'd have to get it right, and then it would come out kind of like a Coen Brothers film with the humour like that. But if you go for just stupid laughs, then you're going downhill.
Yeah, but I will actually give it a watch. I'm trying my best to get through all the Oscar contender kind of films just to see which one definitely deserves the Oscar, and so I will probably have to give this a watch before the Oscars.
Yeah, it's definitely worth. It's definitely worth looking. I mean, my appreciation of it and everything involved with it has definitely gone up since.
Good.
Okay, that's it for this week's cinema section. We're going to have a quick break, after which we'll come back with this week's DVD and Blu-ray section.
The From Page to Screen movie cast. So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look, but sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, now that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting and about the writing. That's really what theatre is for me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. It'd be like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
Right, welcome back to this week's Monday Movie Show. We're into the Blu-ray and DVD section where we're matching the amount of films that we've had in the cinema section in this section. So we have 4, and they are...
we have Ridley Scott's possibly Oscar contender with The Martian. We have a not really Oscar contending film with Pan. We have a very odd film with The Lobster, and we have a French film with Gemma Bovery.
Which, if you look at it on the surface, it doesn't look like a French film, but
when
you dig into it, it definitely is.
Yes.
And then on top of that, we have our TV movies of the week and our overall movie of the week, but it's Blu-ray and DVD top 10 where there is a lot of new entries, because if you listen to last week's show, we reviewed a lot of films, and so we're expecting the chart to look like this. And at number 10 is a new entry for The Walk,
which I really enjoyed. It's one of the ones that I have gone out and got, so when I've got the 3D version of it, because it is a film that as much as it's not for everyone, I really just connected with it. I did find for me it's an odd way to say it, but it is a weird kind of love story about the whole thing of Philip Petit, who essentially had this obsession with the two towers and doing the walk across them on the trapeze and the tightrope, and it's for me a really, really good film, one of my favourite films of last year.
Yeah, it's entertaining. It has a few tiny little problems there, but when you've got Joseph Gordon-Levitt on top form, then you can just admire his work, because his French accent is a bit low rather than like a normal French accent, but it's still.
I have new appreciation for his accent after seeing Zoolander 2, is all I say.
You still appreciate it as a fact, and it's Robert Zemeckis. When he does these kind of films, he sort of like embraces them rather than lampoons them. So I think it is one of those films though that you need to see it on the biggest screen possible.
Oh, yeah.
Because it has that kind of spectacle to it, and even though one of the specific scenes is slightly overdone, it's sort of like the lead up to that, the main scene, that it still works, because there are times where he does walk across the tightrope or the high wire, and you still feel slightly wobbly, even though he's like only 5 feet off the ground. You still feel the kind of, when the wind blows against him, you're thinking he might actually fall off here and still hurt himself. So it's still got that pressure there, but it's a good film. And number 9 is a new entry for Miss You Already,
which is perfectly fine, although it is very by the numbers. It is a a cancer drama, really. It's about a couple of friends who one of them does find years later that she has got cancer, and the other one is sort of left with the situation of, oh well, my friend's life is falling apart, mine is then oddly starting to come together, and it's the weird thing of that. It is a very I'm struggling to way to say it, but I'm not wanting to come across really badly. It's not a bad film. It's just very, very average. It's okay.
It's Catherine Hardwicke, unfortunately, taking a movie that should have been done much better and has been done much better. Even if you look at films like 50-50, that tries to interleave a little bit of humour into this, and this is what this film does as well. It interleaves a little bit of humour into it here and there. It's just when you've got two decent performances, one pretty strong one by Toni Collette, and Drew Barrymore, she tries her best with the character, but it's not as overly developed as Toni Collette's character. She outshines everybody else. It's just hard for the other people to breathe, and when you're creating this kind of film, you need to give them much more stronger people to actually work with, rather than the ones that they were given. And that's why films like 50-50 work much better, because it is a buddy movie, and this should have been like that. This should have been a buddy movie, when in fact one half of the buddy is actually outshining the other one. It should have been pretty much on even ground. Number 8, we'll gloss over it. It's a new entry for me, as Runner Scotch Trial / Percy Jackson double bill. Number 7 is Straight Outta Compton,
which I didn't love as much as everyone else seems to have. I can understand that obviously it's a good drama, but for me, I didn't connect with it because it's about rap music and about NWA, and I'm not into that at all. I'm not a rap fan. I know the NWA, but I'm not into their music at all. So for me, it didn't connect. I do think that F. Gary Gray, who directed it, is a good director. I do like some of his films. Things like The Negotiator, where he does sort of good thrillers. This is just a drama, obviously. I do think it was trying to be sort of Oscar bait intentionally at times. And I had no problem with it, aside from the music. It's just the thing.
And number 6 is Everest.
It's kind of like it's almost like a TV movie that has been upgraded to cinematic quality, because it is a cinema film, but it doesn't have a big group of characters that and anything sort of stands out. It is a very sort of averagely written film, but it's been sort of punched above its weight directing it, and the whole thing altogether does become sort of more than the sum of its parts. The whole does become more than some of its parts, and it's a visually interesting film. It's very well effects heavy, obviously, but it's one, again, like The Walk, that's worth seeing on a bigger screen as you can.
At number 5 is a new entry for Macbeth,
which is a film which, obviously, the whole thing of Macbeth is the Shakespearean play, and adapting a play to film is always going to be difficult. I don't think this has been done the best way it could have been. I think that it definitely does have at the centre of it a great performance by Michael Fassbender, who is doing some scenes where it's just literally him sitting there looking in agony or grief while he's spouting his lines in a long take, which is what I do love about it, that it focuses on the performance. But then there are scenes where it starts off with scenes that look very cinematically amazing, and then at other times later on it just looks as if someone's gone, oh, get a camera there, that's what we need, that's it, with no planning at all, and it kind of has this split personality all the way through it. It's not a great film by any means, apart from Michael Fassbender's performance and also Marion Cotillard's performance.
At number 4 is a new entry for Stickman.
I haven't seen this. It's just it's one of these kids release things, isn't it?
It was shown over Christmas. It was part of, it was shown on Christmas Day on the BBC. It was one of their things that sort of like goes up against the Snowman or the Snow Dog.
It's one of these short things, you know.
Yeah, it was actually really good. It was really, really good. But it's sort of like, it's a bit silly releasing it in February, when in fact that it has got a proper Christmassy kind of feel to it. And after Christmas is sort of like a long way off, you don't want to see Christmassy stuff already in February. They could have just kept it back to release it on DVD and Blu-ray around about Christmas time. I think that's maybe what they're going to do with Krampus, and it's what they normally do with Christmas movies that get released in the cinema. You wait pretty much the longest time you possibly can between a cinema release and a DVD release for those kind of movies. They should have just done that with Stickman, because it's just not. It just went in number 4. It's going to quickly get out of there. It would have been done much better. Released, say, back end of October, start of November, just to signify, yes, the holiday season is upon us once again. But yeah, it's fun. Number 3 is the new entry for Sicario.
Not as good as the previous movie by I forget his name now. Well, the director, whose previous movie was Prisoners. Dennis Villeneuve, thank you. It is a very good sort of film, but the problem is that I think it's far too long. It does have moments where it does have a bit of a sag and a lull in the moment, in the middle in particular, with John Berthel's character appearing. I do think that it's a good performance from Emily Blunt in the film, although I do think she has been miscast. There are other actresses that may have been better suited to the role, and it's an okay thriller, but it has a kind of a numbing effect by the end of it. You sort of out of it, and it doesn't quite add up by the end of it.
And number 2 is a new entry for Maze Runner's Scotch Trials,
which is it's a weird thing. You've got all these films that are now being adapted from teen books. You have Hunger Games, you have the Divergent series, you have this, and it's a film that unfortunately doesn't keep the level of quality and the level of direction. I don't mean direction of the directing skills of the film, the director of the film. I mean the direction of having an idea where it wants to go. And I've not read the books, so I don't think. But I don't even think it's an issue with the books. I think it's just that the second film, it meanders a lot because they don't know how to tell the story properly. It doesn't have that focus that the first film does. It doesn't have that sharpness that the first film does. There's a lot of walking around and you kind of sit there thinking, well, why am I doing this? Why am I watching this bit? Get to the next bit. It has that sort of misdirection and not knowing where it's going issue that a lot of sequels do have, especially the second of 3 films. I'm hoping the third one will clear it up. Whether or not, we'll see, but it definitely is a drop down from the first film.
And at number 1 still is Legend.
Yeah, which is it's an average film, but it is elevated by the double performance of Tom Hardy as the Krays, and it's one of these films that it's doing well. It wouldn't be doing so well if it wasn't for the performance of Hardy. Everything else in it, the writing is not so good. The direction is perfectly fine. There are times when it feels almost like it's a TV movie, and it looks the styles and the effects and the suits and the setting and everything are one of the great pieces of it, the great things of it. But it's a film that it doesn't really show the seriousness and the darkness of what the Krays really were. It shies away from it. It is doing the whole thing of it. It's the legend of the Krays. It's not really the Krays.
Yep, and that's it for the Blu-ray and DVD top 10. So, first review of the night, The Martian. It's directed by Ridley Scott, written by Drew Goddard. It took a while for Ridley Scott to actually get back to his best. He has had a string of pretty mediocre movies at best. And it sort of like indicates that when Ridley Scott has got a bad writer working alongside him, that's the kind of indicative movies that he creates. When in fact, if he's got a good writer in the form of Drew Goddard, whereas Drew Goddard's had a few very good hits over the last few years, then he will create something very interesting or very special. And that's pretty much how me and Andy felt about The Martian. And it centres around Matt Damon's character, who plays Mark Watney. And it's a very simple story where he's abandoned on Mars when a storm happens, and the original crew that he was with, they haven't deserted him, but they've had to get off the planet. And he's left there on Mars. He has to survive, and it's up to this crew to come back to try and rescue him. And so what does he do? He has to use every single bit of his know-how, knowledge and wit to try and live a life on Mars. Here's a clip.
Right. Let's do the math. Our service mission here was supposed to last 31 souls. For redundancy, they sent 68 souls worth of food. That's for 6 people. So for just me, that's going to last 300 souls, which I figure I can stretch to 400 if I ration. So I got to figure out a way to grow 3 years worth of food here on a planet where nothing grows. Luckily, I'm a botanist. Mars will come to fear my botany powers.
So a lot of time with the film, it solely rests on Matt Damon's shoulders. However, he has got a big, huge, massive supporting cast who are trying their best to get to rescue him in the form of Jessica Chastain, who plays the captain of the ship, who decides to take it upon herself to turn around along with the crew to try and go back for him. And then you've got Kristen Wiig, Jeff Daniels, Michael Pena, Sean Bean, Kate Mara, Chiwetel Ejiofor. So you've got a huge, massive cast. And even though a few of those characters are sort of like just given tiny little miniature parts, it is all about Watney's survival. What is he going to do? He does potatoes is the joke that came out of it, and so he manages to cultivate potatoes using human feces, to be honest. But it's an intelligent thought process from him, because as you heard there, he is a botanist, but he's got umpteen amounts of time to try and figure out how to get something correct, and it's him, and he's tinkering and trying to get something to grow or trying to set something up to be able to do things. And yes, you've got the troubles along the way of things like going wrong, but it's just about his survival, and it's brilliantly played by Matt Damon. He interleaves some humour into his character, and that's from the writing from Drew Goddard, because he knows how to do that with characters. 1 minute it could be very serious, the next minute it could be him having a little bit of a joke, because you can see that it's starting to get to him. And that's the intelligence of the script. But it's also the way that Ridley Scott has directed the movie. At times the comedy can be a bit grating a little bit, but he never actually pushes it too far. He reels it back and then changes the tone of the film. And so overall, it's a science fiction film with comedy, with drama that shouldn't work, but it definitely does work, because you've got a script that adds punch to it, that adds interest to it. You've got direction that gives characters to breathe, but also explores some of the characters, especially the main ones. And you've got some very good acting in there from Matt Damon, from Jessica Chastain, and even some of the supporting ones, when they've only got little crop-up lines or bits of dialogue to see it. They pretty much use that dialogue to the best of their capabilities, and so nobody's on weak form in this, and it's just Ridley Scott back to his best. When Ridley Scott directs a really good film, he definitely does a really good film, and this is up there with some of his best.
Yeah, I agree.
Good to see her, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's nice to have that, because I mean, after things like Exodus, Gods and Kings, he goes on to something like this. Then it's a thing of that it's a film which is surprising because of the fact of that it starts off and you think, oh, you know, it's going to go do this thing where it goes through the numbers, you have this thing, and then it goes and kind of throws a curveball in there, and you're like, oh, okay, wouldn't see that coming. And it is witty, and it's got a sense of humour all the way through it. And like you said, it's one of these films that it doesn't change its tone, which is a nice thing, because too often you get a film that starts off one way and then by the end of it it's a completely different thing, and it's not that with that case for this. It's a solid film from start to finish. It's a drama, but it has, you know, fantastical elements of science fiction in there. It has you know, obviously Mars, an alien planet. You have some really beautifully shot sequences as well that are out on the surface of the planet, you know, and some beautifully shot sort of sequences in space as well. And I was completely blown away, but I really enjoyed it. And it actually almost you kind of, at one point it did actually get me kind of swelling up in kind of like, ooh, you know, I was emotionally invested in it that much that I did feel it, you know. So it is definitely Ridley Scott back on top form,
which is very we're happy to actually see that because we miss him on top form. And it's just, I think he should personally just work with Drew Goddard from now on, because everything that Drew Goddard seems to, every bit of paper that his pen touches just turns to gold. And he's not one of these ones where he's writing like 20 different scripts and sort of like wearing himself out a little bit. He'll write something and then there's a bit of a gap between his next project. And so he's not a director in a way or a writer who wants a project or 2 projects or 3 projects to be out every single year. He'll pick and choose, because his previous movie before this that he was fully involved in was The Cabin in the Woods. And so it's nice for somebody to realise that, and I just love his work. He's a fantastic director, he's a fantastic writer, and what else can he do? Can he sing and dance as well?
Well, maybe we'll find out one day. Okay, on to Pan, which is directed by Joe Wright. Now, Pan is... I didn't manage to see this at the cinema as much as I did try. I just wasn't able to see it for time-wise. And you reviewed it at the cinema.
Yes.
Now, I'm trying to remember... I know you didn't love it.
I didn't like it at all, actually. I liked the first 15 minutes, but that's all I did like.
Yeah. Because you have the whole thing of Peter Pan's story so well known now to anyone, but obviously this is a little bit sort of different version of it, because you have the whole thing of it's kind of before Peter Pan became Peter Pan, and you have in there as well the character of Captain Hook before he becomes Hook. It is the whole thing of the Peter Pan who's whisked off to Neverland. He is there basically kidnapped with a whole load of other boys from an orphanage by Captain Blackbeard, played by Hugh Jackman. It's the whole thing of that he's there so that they can be working in a mine to find the last remnants of fairy dust, for a reason that Blackbeard wants it for his own sort of reasons, and the whole thing of that it's all about that, and the issue that obviously at one point Peter shows that he can fly unwittingly, and this starts off a whole sort of worry for Blackbeard because of a prophecy that tells that he will be sort of undone and defeated by the chosen one who will show and be able to fly. Here's a clip.
Hey, Flyboy.
Yeah.
Put your ear to that wall over there. Now that's the sound of a blast cap I stuck to the other side. Set to go off in 30 seconds.
If I fly, you'll help me find my mother. I reckon she's here. On the island.
It's not negotiation, kid. Without me, you're stuck in this cell.
Without me, you're stuck in these mines.
Okay, then we'll talk about it. Just move away from that wall before you get yourself blown up, all right?
So what's it gonna be?
Kid.
Tick. Tock.
Okay, we have a deal, just... Flyboy. Hurry! Slide down. They'll be coming for us.
If I'm gonna trust you, I need to know your name.
It's Hook. The name's James Hook. Happy?
No!
So, here's the thing with Pan. It is a weird film that has these whole sequences of... It starts off, like you're saying, the first 15 minutes. The scene in the orphanage is a bit kind of... It feels almost like it's stalling at the start of the film. Then you have this whole thing of the sequence where the children are all abducted, and the appearance of Blackbeard, and that is perfectly fine, and that's actually enjoyable. It's got some nicely done action sequences. There's this weird but amazing sequence of the ship flying over. I'm not sure if it actually is London or not, but it's supposed to be basically flying over the city, and then it encounters Spitfires shooting at it and stuff because it's wartime. And I was quite impressed by that. It's a bit different, it's kind of like the whole thing. You don't see that every day. And then it gets there, and this is definitely an issue you have with it. And it gets to Neverland, and then everyone starts breaking out singing "Feels Like Teen Spirit." Smells like Teen Spirit, yeah. And I honestly sat there and I was like, what? Huh? I literally sat there and my brain just exploded in a kind of like, and not in a good way. I sat there and like my brain was just trying to figure it out. I just couldn't make sense of it. You have Hugh Jackman is completely chewing the scenery all the way through the film in full on modeness. You have as well one of my favourite actors, Rooney Mara, turning up, and honestly I didn't know what she was doing in the film. I sat there and I thought, why is she there? Honestly, again, didn't make sense to me. And the thing is, there are the sequences that are sort of these flying birds that I don't know if they are maybe this way in the book described as something, the original story, but these flying birds with cages in their chests and all, and it's very odd and weird and very abstract. And then you have these whole sequences of the mermaids and such, and I gotta admit, by the end of it, I finished watching it, and I sat there and thought that was crazy and weird and stupid, and parts of it just didn't make sense. But I didn't hate it. I actually didn't hate it. I didn't think it was absolutely amazing, but I sat there and I was like, you know what? I've watched worse films. I've seen worse sequences. I actually enjoyed some of the action sequences were more than competently directed by Joe Wright. And I thought the actual lead performance from Peter, Levi Miller, was actually Levi Miller was actually a pretty good performance. Garrett Hedlund, who plays Hook, really needs to be slapped with a wet fish.
More than that. His
performance in the film, at times I genuinely thought he was trying to channel Hugo Weaving from The Matrix. It was just you heard it in that clip there, his voice. It was very much slipping into, oh yes, Mr. Anderson. Oh God, it was just. Honestly, Rooney Mara, I'm really disappointed that she was in it, because it's just so wasted. And the sequences when she turns up, you see her first time you see her, and she's wearing this headdress that you seriously, and you're going, how much did they pay you to wear that and agree to do this film and stuff? And it's a shame, and I just thought it was just. It's a waste of material as much as anything else. But I'm surprised that. I wanted it to be much better. I wanted to enjoy it. The whole thing of it's filled with so many bad decisions and decision-making process when somebody was, and I don't think it's down just to Joe Wright. I think there are sequences that probably were written in such a way that it was questionable. And I sat there just thinking, I like this, but I don't love it. It's weird, and it's weird to say that, but I oddly came out of it having been entertained and enjoying it, and not being able to say why or particular reason why I really liked it. I just got to the end and I was like, you know what? Okay.
No, I can't agree with you.
I know you can't. But the thing is, I can't even really explain why I liked it, because there are moments in it which are genuinely bad, and I don't mean like bad as in good. I mean bad, and yet still to me, I was okay with it.
I wasn't, because it's sort of like the facade in a way is taking hold of you with the film itself. It's pretty much, I wouldn't be surprised if a hand came out of the screen and shoved sugar down your throat just to keep you hyperactive while watching the movie, because that's in a way how the film is perceived. It's trying to say that it is just a hyped up kid, and when in fact I saw straight through it. It was like a window for me. The first 15-20 minutes was quite well created, very well implemented. I did like the scene which involved the planes attacking the ship. It was nicely done. It's just once they hit Neverland and Smells Like Teen Spirit starts, you start to get feelings that something is going to be terribly wrong with this, and it never recovers. It just never recovers for me. It just fumbles its way through set pieces, and all character choices is just badly implemented, and just everything about the movie just started to grate on me. And the more I was watching it, the more I was starting to get annoyed with it, and the more that it was trying to save itself. As a matter of fact, it was actually hurting itself more so, and bringing these horribly CGI birds into the effect, and bringing characters which didn't have, just you don't know what they were doing. It's just starting to get worse and worse, and then by the time it finished, I had like a really bad sugary headache. Because it felt like I was locked inside of a sweet shop and told to eat everything in there before I'm allowed out. It's like the worst Saw torture. I've got a game for you. You now have to eat all these gobstoppers before you get out of the shop, and you just don't want to. And no, I didn't like the film at all.
It was just the fact of that when it came out in the cinema, there was this whole running gag of it being nicknamed Pants, obviously on the title. And it's just the fact that when I saw it, I thought, you know what, it's not Pants. It's not great, but it's you know, it's not a film that's that bad that it needs to be given that nickname. It's just I didn't think it was that bad.
On to The Lobster then. It's directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who's not known for making very straightforward films.
Not known for making very mainstream films.
Straightforward films, because Yorgos Lanthimos, this is his first English language movie. A couple of previous films, Alps and Dogtooth, are very hard watches, especially Alps. Dogtooth has got a very quirky feel to it, despite the subject, which involves I'm actually not going to explain it because we're a PG kind of show, and it's really difficult to actually explain these kind of movies without delving into territory that we shouldn't. Alps is just one of those hard to describe movies. And in a way, Lobster has got the feel of that, when in fact, if you scratch the surface, it's got a very simple storyline. It centres around Colin Farrell's character, who plays David. He has gone to this... It's sort of like a home, or a hostel kind of thing, where in fact that people live there, single people live there. You know, the whole idea of there is to try and establish a relationship with somebody. At the start, they are given a single room. They're asked a few questions, their sexual preference, what they've been like during their life, what jobs they have, etc. And they get allocated a room. They get given loads of kind of rules and regulations. The fact that they can't wear their ordinary clothes, they've got to wear specific clothes given to them. They've got to do exactly what is said in there. And then if they partner up with somebody, they ultimately get a double room, and if they survive a couple of weeks, that's their life. However, if they don't, after 45 days, they get turned into a specific animal of their choice, or if they do bad things, an animal will be forced upon them. Here's a clip giving you a kind of feel of what the film's like.
Not bad. Bit higher. Put it back.
Have you thought about what animals you want to be if you don't make it?
A lobster.
I'm going to be a parrot if I don't make it. Why don't you become parrots too? And then we'll all be together.
You're a complete idiot. Picking one of the few animals that can talk when you have a speech impediment. You'll lisp, even as an animal. As for you, they'll catch you and put you in a pot of boiling water until you die. And then they'll crack open your claws with a tool, like pliers, and they'll suck out what little flesh you have with their mouths. You're pathetic, both of you. I'm not going to be turned into some animal. I'll come and visit you, though, with my partner, when we're walking together in some park, or when we're swimming in the sea, or when we're on one of our trips.
That's pretty much one of the longest speeches in the film itself, because every sort of like speech, every kind of dialogue that it's uttered, has got like a pause in between it, like they're robots, or like they're 5-year-olds who are reading from a script. They've got the script directly in front of them, and they're reading for the first time. See, spot, run, ooh, I eat food, kind of thing. And in a way, it's sort of like indicative of what the movie is like. You could look at that and thinking, well, it's society treating them, humans or anybody, like robots now, and they're told to do exactly what they should do, and relationships are very important, and blah-de-blah-de-blah. Or you just could look at it and think, this is pretentious. And I sort of, in a way, fall in the pretentious category. A lot of critics love this movie, and if you look over Yorgos Lanthimos' kind of oeuvre, he's known for very strange created characters, very strange setups, and this is indicative with this, but it just seems very pretentious. It seems to be a movie where it's supposedly talking about society and what it's like now, and how relationships established and how you should be together, when in fact it just seems to be like, Ari's got a fantastic cast, I wonder how badly we can create their characters. it's a movie of two halves as well. So you've got one half of the movie which is set in this kind of hotel area, and then you've got a second half of the film where David's character falls in love with somebody who's played by Rachel Weisz, and in a way they can't fall in love in that because they're supposed to be singles when they're away from this hotel area, and you've got Lea Seydoux character who's sort of like preventing this from happening, and torture in a way comes into the forefront when they stray off any kind of path that they're forced down. And so again, you could look at it as like the way the government treats society, the fact that they're the ones who set out the bollards and the railings and stuff like that, and we have to follow exactly what they tell us to, and if we deviate from their thing, we're sort of like cast out as outcasts. It's not an exploration on society, it's just the fact that a director had a quirky idea, he decides to bring it onto the screen, gets loads of actors to read badly from a script, even though it's meant to be the way the characters are created, when in fact it's just a movie that grates on you. And it should be a film that I should like, because I do quite like these intellectual, intelligent, self-aware kind of movies, when in fact I just wanted this film to end. And one of the plus points is it never feels like a 2-hour film. It just I couldn't believe that I started the film and then I looked at my watch and it was nearly the end. And so at least it never overstays its welcome. It's just I didn't like it, unfortunately. And I do like Yorgos Lanthimos. I really like Dogtooth. Dogtooth is a very good film if you've got a very strong stomach. I didn't like The Lobster.
I didn't like it either, but I do think, though, again, I agree, one thing, that it is a film with two halves, and the hotel half is definitely an interesting sequence. I really like the hotel stuff. It's when it leaves the hotel afterwards and then goes into the forest and you have the singles bit that I found it really just tested my patience, and I got to the point where I thought I'm losing interest in it, and that's where it had a problem for me. That's where it lost me.
For me, the film itself felt like the TV program The Prisoner. It's got a very
I can see
like
that.
Like, it's got a controlled society in both areas. Both areas is, no matter what you do, you're trying to actually establish a couple in the hotel area, but it's in a way it's sort of like seen as wrong kind of thing, but single seems to be maybe turning into the animal is the best way to go, whereas on the outskirts, when you want to in a way to sort of like establish a relationship with somebody, being single is seen to be the best, and so you sort of like told not to do that, and you can't win. No matter what you do, you can't win. When you get to the city, you've got to make sure that you're a couple, because if not, you get ostracized. You look at there's a scene which involves a woman who gets stopped inside of a shopping mall, and she gets checked on her feet if she's got dirt on her feet or dirt on her fingernails, and this is supposed to indicate that she's in a relationship. Really?
Okay, last film of the evening is Gemma Bovery, which is it's a French movie, but you have in there actors such as Gemma Arterton and Jason Fleming, who are speaking French at times, but also speaking in English at times. The main character, though, is played by Fabrice. I don't know if it's Fabrice or Fabrice Lucchini. Plays Martin, who is a man he's a baker who lives in this small town in France. He used to be someone who lived in Paris, but now has settled down for the sort of quieter life with his wife and his daughter. Sorry, it was his wife and his son even. He is sort of living there, and everything's sort of going normal for him when a new couple played by Gemma Arterton and Jason Fleming move in to the house, sort of an older house across the street from them. He meets them, learns their names, which are Gemma and Charlie Bovery, and becomes a bit sort of fascinated with that and sort of interested with her because of the fact of that he is a big fan of the book written in the 1800s of Madame Bovary. And I'm not someone who knows of the Madame Bovary story. It's not really a thing for me. I looked into it. I mean, the film does explain it a bit more, but for anyone who's not aware of it, the whole thing of Madame Bovary is it's a story about a woman who started sort of affairs and ended very, very badly, sort of thing. And he sort of becomes fascinated and obsessed with Gemma's character because of the fact that he sees sort of similarities in not only in her namesake but also in her behaviour and things that are going on. So he starts to become sort of worried about about that and observing, and also even trying to sort of help her kind of become aware of the fact that she's kind of living in a way that's indicative of the events of the character in the book. It is in French, so we don't have a clip for it, but the thing is that it's interesting about it is that it's a very odd film in that you have this whole thing of someone referencing a past, an old book, and this thing that for me, I didn't buy it. I just didn't get that whole thing. The whole thing, it didn't do anything to say that there was anything mystical or anything going on. It was just the whole thing of a coincidence, and for me, that was the whole problem with it. It is a perfectly fine performance, everyone. I do actually think I do really like. I don't know the actor Fabrice Lucchini. I've not seen him in anything before, and I think he's actually really good in this. I did like it, but it's just the concept I struggled with, and I found it very, very much just to take it on. It's just a coincidence this happened, and I wish there had been some kind of a thing, to say that it was a divine thing or something. I just felt it lacks that sort of, not necessarily an explanation, but that setup of it happening so that I could get past that and go on with the rest of the story. So for me, it didn't work because it didn't set up things properly. I don't think it's bad. The setup didn't work. I do think the acting though is good in it.
Yeah, the acting's good. I agree with you with the film itself. It feels like there should be something else there.
Yeah, it's just it feels like it's basically just a failed concept that someone's come up with half a concept and gone, do that, and not gone, okay, we'll do this because it's not like it's even trying to say anything. Is the thing. It's annoying.
Yeah, I completely agree on that front. And that's it for new releases of this week. TV movies of the week.
I've got quite a few actually.
I've got 3.
I've got 5, although I'm not sure. I don't know because I haven't written down. Is AMC a free channel or is it a pay channel?
It's exclusive. Well, it's on Sky and it's on BT, and that's it. You can't get it on Freeview.
Right, but is it actually is it free on those? You don't have to pay.
No, you have to have a subscription to both.
Okay.
You have to have BT TV and you have to have Sky, but you have to have BT broadband with that to get it. So it's BT orientated. You need to have your BT broadband and you need to have BT TV to get it.
Okay, in that case I have 4 then.
What was your film on AMC anyway?
It was Narc, which is on Thursday the 11th at 11 p.m. It's not a film you see really on television, but
maybe that's the reason why it's on AMC then, if that's the case.
But that's good sort of. It's one of these good sort of indie cop thrillers with Jason Patric.
Yeah.
My other films though, I've got Wednesday. They're not all on Film 4 as well. Wednesday the 10th at 9 o'clock on Film 4 is The East, which is again an indie film with Britt Marling sort of having to infiltrate a eco-terrorist gang, funnily enough. A better film than Point Break about eco-terrorism. You have on the same night, Wednesday the 10th, 11:45 p.m, although there are regional variations for wherever you are, BBC One, Michael Clayton, the sort of drama following The Fixer, which I really enjoyed with George Clooney. We were talking about earlier on Katheryn Bigalow. Zero Dark 30 is on Thursday the 11th at 9 o'clock on Film 4, which I'm surprised it's actually that early. I thought it should be a bit later time, but that is a very, very good film. And also on Sunday the 17th at 11:30. Sorry, not Sunday 17th. No, I've got that wrong down. For some reason, that's a previous note I've got. So I've only got those ones. Yeah. So I've only got those 3 basically.
Yeah, well, I've got 3 different ones. Film 4, Friday the 12th into Saturday the 13th. So this is on at 1:05 in the morning, District 9. Very late for that to be shown.
Yeah.
With Neil Blomkamp's trilogy, South African trilogy Alien films, brilliantly well created. Brought Blomkamp into the forefront and Sholto Copley as well, and it's a very interesting watch. Compliance, every single time this movie shows its face, I definitely recommend people watching it just for the story alone, because it makes you scratch your head and how is this real?
And I think as well, it's not that old because it was made partly by Film 4, so I think Film 4 get the rights.
Sunday the 14th at 11:15, which is an interesting movie to watch on Valentine's Day, Valentine's Day night.
Yeah.
But the movie I'm choosing, it's slightly out there just a little bit. It's on 5-star on Saturday the 13th at 7:15 at night. And I'm only choosing this because it's been a while since I've watched it, and every single time I do watch it, I just absolutely love it. It's Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. It's just I'm choosing this because I'm known for being an absolute stickler when it comes to comedy movies. I've got pretty much a very straight face. Yet Jim Carrey's early stuff just makes me giggle like a little school kid. Ace Ventura, Mask, even Liar Liar. I absolutely love Liar Liar. Even the Cable Guy.
Cable Guy I love. Cable Guy I really do love. It's a very underrated film, I think, and very missed by a lot of people who
definitely,
didn't get the humour.
If anywhere has ever shown that, I definitely recommend that. But Ace Ventura is definitely one of those movies where you can't help but snigger at it. You can't help but giggle at it, because when Carrey is in his insane manner, he definitely pulls it off brilliant. He's tried it these days and he just feels badly. But this shows you when Jim Carrey is at his best in his comedy form. I just love Ace Ventura, so that's my strange pick of the TV movies that I've chosen. Again, it's on 5-star on Saturday the 13th at 7:15. So you can either choose to watch The Voice, or you can choose to watch Ace Ventura.
Yeah, I know which one I'll be watching.
Yeah, The Voice. But yeah, that's it for this week's show. What is your overall movie of the week?
Trumbo.
And I haven't seen Trumbo, so I would have said Martian on DVD, but if I got to go cinema wise, go and see Goosebumps. Go and have a little bit of fun 90 minutes to watch Goosebumps. That's it for this week's show. We will be back next week on Sunday, Monday or Tuesday. We'll decide of the day. We'll throw up the details up on the website mondaymovieshow.co.uk. Next week's show is jam-packed, especially in the cinema section. I think distributors have sort of like done a bit of a bad thing with the release of films, because the films that are out during the week and Friday are insane. We'll play you out with a clip from one of them, but you've got things like Marvel's latest movie with Deadpool, that's out on Wednesday, and then you've got Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and then you've got other movies just thrown out alongside all of that. So you've got a lot of films. So next week's cinema section will be jam-packed. Make sure you check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/Monday Movie Show, Twitter at Monday Movie Show, I'm at Cryptic Tadpole, Andrew's at EHDVD. You can email us mondaymoovieshow@yahoo.com. On top of that, as a bonus thing, there is a new episode of Following the Gamer, which will air on Friday night at around about 9/10 o'clock for an hour. So it's your fortnightly dose of video game stuff. So Following the Gamer, or follow that on Twitter, Following T Gamer. And Stuart from Page 2 Screen, the lucky person, he's been in New York over the last week, so he has returned back to the wonderful place that is England, and will be getting his podcasting cap on. Hopefully, I think I'm recording a horror show with him on Sunday, following the Game. I was going to give that there. It's just I'm trying to get people to listen to Following the Gamer from Page 2, number 2 Screen, and then followingthenerd.com. is the best place to get all your geeky news and stuff. So until next week, we'll play you out a clip of Zoolander 2, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You still got it, D-Zone. You're Derek Zoolander. You stopped a Chinese throwing star in midair with a look. I was there.
That's not me anymore.
Yes, it is. Hey, flash me that beautiful look. Give me that incredible Magnum.
No.
Think fast. Magnum.
Wait, no.
Magnum, now! Oh! Come on! You got this, but you gotta focus. Oh! Come on!
Hansel, stop!
You got this! Oh! Yeah!
Maybe we could try a washcloth.
Tequila!
Hansel, no! Oh! No! It's not working!